What does it mean to be rich? Is it your net worth? Your income? Is there some official definition, some magic number where suddenly, boom, and you're rich? Let's break it down. Let's start simple. My first instinct was to Google the definition of the word rich, and it is as follows. Having a great deal of money or assets. Wealthy. Well, that did not help much. What is a great deal of money? What does it mean? So my second thought was to observe the public opinion, and so I took my question to Reddit. If a person has all of their wants and needs paid for via investments and passive income, they're rich. My standards are very low because I'm poor, LMAO. I consider someone rich if no matter what they always have money for all their basic needs, housing, food, bills, without having to consider it. I define rich like everyone else defines rich. Someone who has more money than me. Quite interesting opinions, I would say. But what do they have in common? At the very least, we can say that being rich means you are financially independent. That is, your money covers all your needs and wants. So if you imagine a scale of being rich, on the left side, the minimum of this scale, you have just enough to live comfortably, aka financial independence. But what about the far right? As far as I'm concerned, there is no limit to being rich, so it goes to infinity. The financial independence can be represented in income, net worth, or some other metric, but what does it mean? Here's the catch. Rich is not exactly a fixed number. It's a relative concept. Just how we cannot really say someone is tall unless someone is short, and we wouldn't call someone rich if there were no poor. In this sense, you can argue that it all depends on the distribution, the spread of wealth in society. Think about height. In the US, if you're a 6'2" guy, or about 188 centimeters tall, you're in the 90th percentile. That means you're taller than 90% of men in the US. Why am I mentioning the 90th percentile? Well, being above 90% of people is typically the cutoff in the distribution that will make you go from above average to exceptional. Now let's apply the same idea to money. If you're in the 90th percentile for income or net worth, you're richer than 90% of the population. So what exactly is that line for wealth? In the US, being in the top 10% for net worth would mean you have around $1.9 million. That's assets like your house or your investments, minus any liabilities like your debt. But here's where it gets interesting. Being tall in Netherlands, which is the country with the highest average population, is different than being tall in Indonesia. Same goes for wealth. If you have $100,000 saved up, you might feel broke in New York City, but extremely wealthy in a small town in rural India. Context matters a lot. So when you ask, am I rich? You also have to ask, compared to who? Richness is mostly based on perception. Studies have shown that people label someone as rich when they make, on average, twice as much as they do. So if you make $2,000 a month, you might consider rich someone who makes $4,000 a month, while that person might consider someone who makes $8,000 a month rich. And that is why, in most cases, rich is always just out of reach. But let's go back to the Reddit post that I mentioned in the beginning. A lot of people seem to be equating financial independence to being rich. I see these as two different things. I don't think you can be rich if you aren't also financially independent, but I think financial independence can be achieved long before becoming rich. Which is where our second perception study comes in. This study polled over 2,500 people from the US and found that they should make $233,000 annually to feel financial comfort, which is more than 3 times the average paycheck of an average full-time worker from a 2021. But to feel wealthy, they think they need to earn $483,000, which is more than twice the average amount reported as needed for comfort. If we were to put it in mathematical terms, we would get that comfort equals about 3 times of the average wage, and wealth equals about 2 times the comfort. Or in other words, this would give us wealth is equal to 6 times the average wage. $483,000 as a yearly income seems a bit too extreme. This would actually put you at the top 1% of earners in the US, or the 99th percentile, which is way above the 90th percentile threshold we established earlier. So don't get discouraged yet. If you are from the US, an annual income between $130,000 to $140,000 would actually put you at the top 10%, and thus technically making you rich. But even if you cross these thresholds and hit the 90th percentile, are you really rich? Let's ask some deeper questions. Can you stop working? Let's say you make $150,000 annually and are therefore quite above the 90th percentile of earners in the US. Can you afford to stop working? This is where the difference in net worth and income comes in place. Even if you have a big income, once you stop working, your income becomes a zero, and so you need to be clever about translating your income into your net worth. Even if your income is lower, you can get richer by being smarter about what you do with your money. But that's not all. Will your kids be financially secure? Once you decide to have kids, you are not just paying for yourself, but additional people, and so even if you could be rich if you just had to take care of yourself, just having a kid or two can really change the whole situation. Which is why you also need to think, is your money making more money? Because money isn't static. It grows, shrinks, inflates, deflates. The same amount of money can be rich or poor, depending on how it's used. Wealth is a complicated thing. It's not just a number on your bank statement. There's also issues like wealth inequality, where the top 1% hold a massive portion of global wealth. The social media, which makes us feel poor even when we're doing okay. And of course, the time, the only thing you cannot buy back. Any truly rich person will tell you they would gladly trade money for more time. And yet, most of us only realize that when it's already too late. Thank you for watching my video. Make sure to subscribe to my channel where I try to talk about finance from a unique perspective. Let me know in the comments what is your definition of being rich. And remember, build freedom, not fortune.